Apparently, they can't be everywhere, but they could be anywhere. And they're here today at Jib Talks. Please welcome PC70, Paul Gache.
I've just been talking to you, communicating with you in a language you don't understand. You sat there, you watched, you waited. There was silence. Maybe you thought the interpreter would translate for me. Or maybe you thought the words would come on the screen. What feelings did you have? Maybe you felt a sense of disorientation, confusion, uncertainty. And all those feelings are validated. But that's exactly what a deaf person feels like in your hearing world. I'm Detective Constable Paul Gache of the Royal Gibraltar Police. And aside from my basic policing duties, I have a very specific role in the organisation, and that is to promote disability and deaf awareness. Over the past 3 years, I've been promoting a lot of deaf awareness work with our officers, so we can provide our deaf community with the best police service that we can offer. Today, I'm going to show you some of my work with you all. Linguistically, British Sign Language is very different to English, so question words at the end, as this helps with the process called turn taking. So I ask you a question, and then I reply back, and it's all based on observation. Your name what? My name is Paul. You work where? I work at the police station. You feeling how? Well, I'm slightly nervous, but I'm okay. Signs represent objects and shapes, and the best example I can give you are different countries. France, the French moustache. Australia, the slouch hat from the Australian Army. Israel, the United States of America, so all the states together. Egypt, the ancient pharaoh's mummies. Morocco, and Italy, shaping the country from north to south. But I'm going to show you the sign to my favorite country in the whole world, the Rock of Gibraltar. So the hands represent our peninsula and an iconic rock going up in the upward motion. So when we talk about deaf awareness, we have to be mindful about barriers to communication, okay? Do not assume that everyone is hearing. People have various degrees of hearing loss. Many occasions I've been a lot with my deaf friends and I've had hearing people say, oh, they're a bit rude, they've got their back towards us, that's because they're deaf, okay? So until when you engage with the person, you will not be able to obtain a sense of communication difficulties. Once you've determined the person is deaf or has a hearing loss, you've got to be patient because it's a process that's going to take time, okay? Enabling good communication. So this is all about promoting non-verbal communication when we engage with members of the deaf community. And this is some of the examples I've given to our police officers when they actually engage with them. So I think the most prominent thing about our uniform is probably our bobby helmet. It's tall, it's got a long beak at the front. So I've told my officers, I'm telling you all, take your hat off, okay? So they can see you properly. Remove your hats, sunglasses, and any facial coverings. So deaf people, they rely on eye contact and facial expressions, okay? So they can have that direct contact. It's communication based on observation. Speak clearly, naturally in English. Don't use Spanish, don't use slang words. Equally, avoid raising your voice, okay? So for deaf people, when we lose our senses, other senses can strengthen and they can become hyperreactive. So if you do raise your voice, you can cause a deaf person a level of anxiety and discomfort. Use your mobile phones. We all have them with us. You've got apps, WhatsApp, you take one out, write, and they will write back. Equally, allow a deaf person to use a voice-to-text application. So if they bring the phone to you, just talk into it, and it will be transcribed on their mobile phone screen. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, which is not actually in the presentation, is you can actually write things down. And I'm going to give you a very particular incident that happened with one of our police officers. So our police officers, they all carry pocket notebooks, so you can write information, data, or anything like that. One of our officers attended a suspected burglary, And the prime witness was a member of our deaf community. But because the officer remembered the training I had given him, he gave the pocketbook and the pen to the deaf person, and they wrote everything down. We were later able to get more evidence using our online services at Newmore House. Excellent work from our response officers. So moving on, if you're in a room, you can flick a light switch and capture attention. They will draw their attention to where the light switch is. Use a standby rule, tapping the deaf person on the shoulder to get attention. So let's say, for example, Richard is a deaf person. He's now communicating with our deaf community. So this is a channel of information, of energy, and it cannot be interrupted. So if I want to get his attention, you tap the shoulder and you wait. He knows subconsciously there's somebody waiting behind him to talk to him. And then when he finishes his interaction, he will speak to me. Unfortunately, there are some instances where hearing people are very impatient and they've got a deaf person's shoulder and shake it violently. As a police officer, I can inform you that is a common assault and it is an offense. And finally, this is one of the pet hates that most people in the deaf community have. Don't say, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. You're not going to tell them later. The deaf person knows you're trying to get out of a socially awkward situation. Convey your message and give the deaf person the respect and the dignity they deserve. So I'm going to share with you some of my personal experiences. And that is me, but I was a lot thin at the time. Okay, that's me when I was 19 years old. And I actually did some voluntary work when I lived in Africa and Ghana. And just to explain, when I was out there, I worked in an orphanage, I worked in a leprosy rehabilitation center, and I also worked in an infant school. In the afternoons, I run a volleyball club in a nearby village. Now, at the time, I'd already completed my level 1 in British Sign Language at a community college in Twickenham. And I was so passionate about working with deaf people, and I wanted to improve my sign language skills. So the charity I was working for arranged an attachment for me at a local deaf school, just on the outskirts of the Cape Coast. Excuse me. These were the loveliest, the sweetest children I have ever met. They've never met me before, but the moments I got there, because I knew sign language, they embraced me into their community. So the picture you see, they're actually teaching me American Sign Language. So different countries have different versions of sign language, but and it was a privilege to actually work with them and learn some new languages with them. What I did find quite peculiar about the school is a lot of the teachers weren't actually sign language users. So I observed one of the classrooms and I sat there, and the teacher would write things on the board and the children would watch, and then the teacher would ask the children for a sign, and the teacher would do the sign, and then they'd repeat the process. And then I thought to myself, what's this all about? It was called total communication. Now for me, it was total confusion, because I've worked in a lot of deaf schools in the UK and there's always competent sign language teachers. I actually went to one of the students and I said, did you understand what the teacher said? And he said, and the response was, but they were happy. They were happy. I was so humbled by them. They made me like an older brother to them. We did activities together. They played together. They showed me the everything. And you can just see from the smile on their faces. But I can't finish the story about the children in Ghana with a happy ending. So I had a good relationship with the head teacher. And he said to me one day, Paul, you see these children, you see how happy they are. The moment the school term finishes, they will cry and cry and cry. Some of them get so distressed, so immobilized by their feelings, they have to get picked up and carried to the buses so they go back to the villages. In their villages, no one will speak to them in sign language. So then they have to wait till they come back to the deaf school. So I reflected on this and I thought, you're taking them out of their deaf world. That's their sense of identity, their sense of belonging, their sense of security. Imagine if somebody got you and put you in a tribal community in the Amazon. You don't know the language, you don't know the culture. Within 2 days, you're thinking, I want to go back to Gibraltar. This is what these children suffered every single day after day. I left the deaf school with a heavy heart, but to this day, these children give me some of my happiest memories in Africa. We're not in Africa, we're in Gibraltar, and things are looking good. So until 2022, Parliament passed the British Sign Language Act. That means this officially recognises BSL as a language in its own right. Government agencies facilitate a sign video for the deaf community. So for instance, in Newman House, we've got 2 sign videos in our custody suite, and we also got another one in our interviewing room. So a deaf person comes, we connect online, and then they connect directly to an interpreter in the UK. And finally, they now have access to qualified BSL interpreters, which is a gentleman to my left who's doing an exceptional job for our deaf community. Where do we go from here? Well, let me tell you, I have a message for you all. Before I came to Jib Talks, I sat with a member of the deaf community, and I talked to them. And I said, we've done all this training with our police officers. What do you want me to tell the hearing people of Gibraltar? I will be your messenger. I will be your advocate for the deaf community. And there were 2 responses. The first one was, Paul, tell them we want to be their friends. We want to interact with them. I know it's hard because we communicate with our hands, but please, Paul, tell them to try. The second response was, Paul, tell them we just want to be accepted. Think back to the children in Africa we just previously discussed. Did they feel accepted when they had to go back to their villages? No, they did not. So it pains me to think that we've got members of our own deaf community that don't feel accepted. But it's not just about acceptance, is it? I think it's about validation as well. We're all people. Don't we all want to have our feelings validated? That's normal. But when you're deaf and you've got barriers to your communication, that validation is so much harder to achieve. I therefore ask you all, I ask you as one of you serving police officers, I ask you as a fellow Gibraltarian, and I ask you as your friend, engage with the deaf community. Use some of the strategies I've just shown you today. If not, a basic act of kindness. Wave, thumbs up, smile. Because whatever you do to help a deaf person feel accepted, whatever you do will always be louder than words. Thank you for your time.